is for us with the latest, not least the reaction of the folk who've gathered there. Isabel.
Good morning to you, Alistair. Yes, I was trying to think up the word to try and describe the atmosphere as I walked through the crowds outside Buckingham Palace this morning, and the only word that really comes to mind is heavy. There's a heaviness in the air, and that's not just in the dark clouds over Buckingham Palace today, but the mood of people who are so used to that constant sight of Her Majesty the Queen for 7 decades, wanting in some way to be together here to pay their respects to her. Now, of course, we are so used to Her Majesty the Queen having been here and present on that very balcony. And it was only 14 weeks ago, Alistair, that you and I were here covering the Platinum Jubilee, and her tiny little figure could be seen on that balcony. And what a different mood here today. Of course, we all came together then, didn't we, and celebrated the party at Buckingham Palace, and the contrast could not be more stark today. But that balcony has been so poignant and so well known and well loved throughout her reign. We saw her, of course, at many royal weddings, indeed, trooping the colour. And there were times when Her Majesty the Queen came from outside the walls of the palace, outside the gates of the palace, down here onto the Mall. We know that after the Second World War, on VE Day, she decided as a young princess then to come and join and mix with the crowds, and doing it incognito at the time. And then, perhaps more famously, 25 years ago, after the death of Princess Diana, she broke with tradition, she broke with royal protocol, and she came and she mixed with the crowds here and received flowers for them and their good wishes. And it is very much those quiet echoes of Princess Diana's death that we are feeling here today, not least in the form of those floral tributes, people coming down and laying flowers. They have been ever since that news broke yesterday evening. For King Charles III, though, we expect him to arrive down from Balmoral at some point today. We don't know if that now commonplace act of a walkabout with the people will happen or not, but if it does, of course, we'll bring that to you here live on GB News. But we know that His Majesty will be meeting with our brand new Prime Minister, because goodness me, what a historic week this has been. Just 3 days ago, Prime Minister Truss was meeting with Her Majesty at Balmoral, and today Liz Truss will be meeting her second monarch. And then we understand that King Charles will be preparing to address the nation in a recorded address this evening.
Isabel, the other thing that struck me, and it began to develop yesterday, was although we heard from world leaders, from the Pope to Mr. Trudeau and Donald Trump and Joe Biden, behind you now in that crowd are not only UK citizens, Brits coming down to pay their respect and share their memories. A whole range of tourists are there as well, people who've come to London for a holiday, and lo and behold, this momentous event takes place whilst they're here in the UK as guests of the UK.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Alistair. We saw the pictures, I was watching the pictures unfold last night outside Buckingham Palace of huge crowds, many of whom had finished work for the day and came down. But this morning, let's not forget, most British people are going about their business. Now, many of those I know have been able to come and pay their respects before going to work, or in fact, like I think Anne Diamond saying that she wants to pop down after her shift to do so. But the vast majority of voices, in fact, that I heard as I was making my way to the camera point today were foreign accents, exactly as you described, people travelling here from all over the world, post-COVID, back in the UK, enjoying all that we have to offer, and then finding themselves at the heart of what can only be described as a global news story, probably the biggest story of most people's lives.
Also interesting, as we remind folk who are kind enough to be watching us on television or listening to us on radio or online, is that King Charles III, of course, will be leaving Balmoral, where he spent those final moments with his mother, the late Queen, and then will be travelling down to Buckingham Palace. And as King Charles III, he, as Prince of Wales, he lived just a little across the way down to your left in Clarence House. But that famous facade behind you, Buckingham Palace, now becomes his headquarters, his palace, along with Balmoral, along with Sandringham, and of course, along with Windsor.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's a huge period of flux, not only for the nation as we all come to terms with this big change, but on a personal note as well, a change of house for our new King Charles. And of course, we know that the Duke and Duchess of Cornwall and Cambridge, new titles, got to try and remember all of those, also having moved house, new titles, everything changing for them. But as the nation enters this period of mourning, the royal family, the senior royals, will have this extended period of mourning, and that will allow for some of those transitions to take place seamlessly behind the scenes, because of course this is going to be a very busy period for King Charles. He'll be travelling up and down the nation in the coming days ahead of the funeral of his mother. Lots of work has to be done for all of this to be prepared and ready for that state funeral. We expect it to be possibly, I think, Monday the 19th.